Welcome to the Concierge Care Health System podcast. The information shared in this podcast is for general informational purposes only and does not constitute medical advice. Listeners should be aware the content is not a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always consult with a physician or other qualified healthcare provider for medical questions.
You know the feeling. You're scrolling, maybe through your social feed, catching up, and boom, a headline just jumps out. You won't believe what happened next. Or maybe the one weird trick they don't want you to know.
Oh, yeah.
Your thumb just pauses. There's that little flicker of intrigue. You click. And then maybe a few minutes later, there's that pang of disappointment, or even just feeling a bit manipulated.
Definitely been there. We all have.
Exactly. We've all been there, probably more often than we like to admit. Today, we're taking a deep dive into that exact thing, clickbait. And it's way more than just, a minor annoyance online.
Much more.
Our sources, they actually reveal it as this remarkably sophisticated form of persuasive tech. It's engineered, really, to tap into our brain's most fundamental drives.
Mm-hmm. Engineered is the right word.
So our mission today is to give you a shortcut, basically, to understanding this. We're going to unpack the neuropsychological secrets behind clickbait. We'll explore the consequences, both for us as individuals and for society's trust in information.
Which are pretty significant.
Right. And most importantly, we want to equip you with a strong, multi-layered defense strategy. Think of this as your guide to understanding digital temptation and how you can start reclaiming your attention. This deep dive is built around a really comprehensive paper called Clickbait, Neurology, Psychology, Protection, plus a bunch of supporting academic work shedding light on this. Okay, so let's start by defining our terms. Most of us have a general idea, right? Clickbait equals something sensational to get a click. Merriam-Webster, way back in 2015, called it something, designed to make readers want to click, especially when the link leads to content of dubious value or interest.
Yeah, and that definition, looking at our sources, it has some real problems for, a deeper analysis.
Well, so?
Well, it's just too broad. I mean, pretty much all headlines want you to click, don't they? And dubious value, it's completely subjective. What one person finds dubious, another finds fascinating.
Good point. So for a proper academic look, we need something clearer.
Exactly. More objective, more process-oriented. And the scholarly consensus highlighted in our sources defines clickbait as a headline that strategically withholds information to entice the reader to click on a link.
Ah, okay. Strategic withholding.
Yes. It focuses on how the deliberate creation of what they call an artificial curiosity gap. Rather than judging the content quality, it's the method, not necessarily the message itself.
That makes a lot more sense. So it's not about whether the article is good or bad per se, but how they lure you in, that deliberate gap. Can you give us a concrete example?
Sure. Think about a standard news headline. CEO Samantha Jones unexpectedly fired from XYZ Corp. Informative, tells you what happened.
Right.
Straightforward.
Now, the clickbait version might add, you won't believe how she learned the news. See, the publisher could have just said she learned via email or whatever.
Yeah.
But they chose deliberately to withhold that specific detail.
To create that gap.
Precisely. They manufacture that gap, promise something sensational to make you need to click. That calculated withholding, that's the key. And it's important to distinguish this from fake news, too, isn't it? They get mixed up all the time.
They absolutely do. And they can overlap, for sure, in their effects. But the primary intent is usually different. Fake news, fundamentally, aims to deceive with false info, misinformation, disinformation.
Okay.
Clickbait's main goal, usually it's about generating web traffic, getting ad revenue, often through sort of sensationalized junk news that isn't necessarily fabricated, just maybe exaggerated or trivial.
But it can still cause harm.
Oh, definitely. Because it's so good at grabbing attention, clickbait can become a really powerful way to spread misinformation. And sometimes it's even a gateway to worse things like phishing scams or malware. So different origins, but they can lead down similar damaging paths.
Okay, let's unpack this a bit more. Clickbait's power, it seems, isn't about inventing totally new psychological tricks. It's more like a masterful application of principles we've actually known about for ages.
That's exactly right. It exploits our brain's inherent shortcuts, almost like hacking our cognitive default settings.
So where does that start? What's the foundation?
Well, the foundational principle is George Loewenstein's information gap theory from back in '94. He reframes curiosity, interestingly, not as just passive interest, but as an aversive state, like a cognitive itch.
An itch, you mean it feels uncomfortable.
Exactly, a state of cognitive deprivation. It creates this mental discomfort, this tension, and a really powerful motivation to, well, scratch it by finding the missing piece of information. It shifts from a nice to know to feeling like a need to know.
So clickbait headlines are literally engineered to create that itch, that tension.
Precisely. They give you what you might call a priming dose of info, just enough to make you acutely aware that there's something specific you don't know.
Ah, okay.
This creates cognitive dissonance, that uncomfortable feeling like you've forgotten something important but can't place it. Your brain just wants to resolve it. Think of the 5 things you should never say to your boss.
Ah, right. You immediately think, oh God, what are they?
Exactly. You know there are specific phrases, and now you feel you need to know what they are. It taps into what Daniel Berlin called specific curiosity, the desire for a particular nugget of information.
So curiosity provides that kind of intellectual hook, but then emotions seem to be the real driver, right? Bypassing our rational side.
Oh, absolutely. Emotions are the engine here. Clickbait is designed to provoke strong, immediate feelings. You do see positive ones sometimes. You know, this uplifting story will restore your faith. A little warmth.
Yeah, the heartwarming stuff.
But far more often, it's the negative ones. Anger, shock, outrage, fear. You won't believe the scandal rocking this small town. It's almost weaponizing our feelings.
So how does that bypass rationality?
Well, that emotional connection is incredibly powerful because it short-circuits our slower, more logical thinking. Sensationalism, which has deep roots in old-school tabloid journalism, uses hyperbole, exaggeration, provocative words to stimulate what some call these unwholesome emotional responses.
And there's research backing this up.
Oh, yeah. Empirical studies using things like eye tracking measuring pupil dilation, a sign of arousal, and self-report scales confirm it. Clickbait generates significantly higher levels of emotional arousal. And what's crucial here, this isn't just a side effect, it's a direct predictor of clicking and sharing. Emotional arousal actually amplifies the curiosity gap.
So the itch gets stronger.
Exactly. The cold cognitive problem, the knowledge gap, becomes a hot emotional state. And dual process theory in psychology tells us these hot states, they inhibit our system 2 thinking, the slow, deliberate, logical part.
Right, the rational part.
And they promote system 1, the fast, intuitive, impulsive part. The emotional urgency just makes that information gap feel less tolerable, which leads to that almost automatic impulsive click. It's your gut reacting before your brain fully engages.
Okay, so beyond curiosity and emotion, clickbait really amps up its effectiveness by playing on our built-in cognitive biases, those mental shortcuts we all use.
Absolutely. Let's touch on a few key ones. First, there's the negativity bias. Our brains are just wired to pay more attention to negative stuff. It's an old survival mechanism.
Right, scanning for threats.
Exactly. Clickbait weaponizes this with scandalous, outrageous, threatening language. EEG studies actually show negative headlines get selected more often and trigger more physiological arousal. We're drawn to potential danger, even digital danger.
Makes sense.
Then there's confirmation bias. We all tend to seek out and believe information that confirms what we already think.
We like being right.
We do. And clickbait is often really cleverly tailored to specific groups, validating their worldviews inside those, filter bubbles or echo chambers. This means people click without much critical thought because it just feels right. It confirms their priors.
Okay, so negativity, confirmation.
The availability heuristic is another big one. We judge how likely or important something is based on how easily examples come to mind.
Like if you see lots of plane crash stories, you think flying is riskier than it is.
Exactly that. Clickbait, with its sensational, memorable, emotional language, makes its content highly available in our minds. It sticks. So, repeated headlines exaggerating a rare disease risk can make you overestimate your personal risk just because those vivid, scary examples are topping mind.
Wow. Okay. And one more.
And let's not forget fear of missing out, FOMO. That social anxiety that keeps us glued to our feeds, worried we're out of the loop.
Yeah, that's powerful.
Incredibly. Clickbait taps right into it with phrases like, what everyone is talking about, or the secret they don't want you to know. It implies you're missing out on something vital, exclusive. That social pressure can easily override rational skepticism. You click just to stay in the know.
So we've covered the psychology, but what's truly fascinating, maybe a bit scary, is how this isn't just abstract psychology. It's rooted in the actual physical, chemical processes of our brains.
Let's peel back that layer.
What's happening physiologically when clickbait grabs us, this isn't just about thoughts, it's about brain mechanics.
Right. At the absolute core of clickbait's motivational pull is the brain's reward system. You can think of it like your motivation engine. Key areas are involved, like the VTA and the nucleus accumbens, or MAC. They drive you towards things you want.
And dopamine is key here.
Dopamine is central. But its main role isn't really about the pleasure you get after something, the liking. It's much more about the motivation, the anticipation, the pure wanting that pushes you to seek something out in the first place.
So dopamine is about the wanting, not the liking. How does clickbait actually engineer that wanting? What does that feel like to us?
It's that intense feeling of anticipation, the promise of a surprising reveal, a novel bit of info, a strong emotional hit that acts as a powerful reward-predicting cue that immediately activates the VTA, causes a dopamine surge in the UNAC. And that generates the intense motivational urge, wanting to click and resolve the uncertainty. Our brain's natural love for novelty and surprise. That's a key vulnerability clickbait ruthlessly exploits. It triggers the dopamine, makes you feel that almost irresistible pull. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, this neurological process, it looks strikingly similar to how behavioral addictions actually start.
Really?
Addiction? Yeah. Clickbait essentially creates an addiction-like loop of unfulfilled seeking. The dopamine-driven wanting, that strong urge to click, gets decoupled from the liking, the actual satisfaction from the often, frankly, underwhelming content.
Right, you click, it's disappointing, but you still click the next one.
Exactly. Each time, it trains your brain, intense anticipation followed by disappointment. But it leaves you primed, hungry for the next dopamine-triggering promise. It's like chasing a high that never quite delivers, but the chase itself becomes reinforcing.
Wow, and we actually have real-time evidence for this from brain imaging, like EEG.
We do. Electroencephalography, EEG, measures brain electrical activity. It shows us, moment by moment, how the brain reacts.
And what does it show? Is it all the same reaction?
Interestingly, no. What's really revealing is that different clickbait strategies actually demand different neural resources. Headlines using exaggeration and strong imagery, what researchers call hyperbole and visual rhetoric, they swiftly capture attention, enhance emotional engagement. That suggests more automatic bottom-up processing, your brain reacting instinctively.
Okay, fast reaction.
Headlines that insinuate something or pose a puzzle, insinuation and puzzles, they demand more cognitive effort. Deeper processing. They engage higher order networks in the prefrontal cortex, the parts involved in problem solving and sustained focus.
So your brain isn't just reacting, it's actively trying to figure it out.
Exactly. It's trying to solve the riddle posed by the headline.
So our brains show these immediate, involuntary attention grabs, heightened emotional responses. Are there specific signals, like brainwaves, that show these tactics bypass our rational defenses?
Yes, definitely. Specific patterns in brain activity, called event-related potentials, or ERPs, act like neural signatures. For instance, forward-referencing headlines, the ones like, "This is the reason why," they elicit larger N2B and P3A components.
What you mean?
Which indicates a rapid, involuntary capture of your attention resources. Your brain detects something potentially significant or novel. It's not you consciously deciding to pay attention. Your brain is already hooked, drawing you in before you can really think about it.
Wow.
And similarly, those emotion-packed words, especially negative ones, they speed up cognitive processing and amplify emotional reactions in the brain. That gives us a clear neurological basis for why negativity bias is so darn effective.
Okay, so if we look at the source's taxonomy of clickbait techniques, a forward reference like "this is what happens when you drink lemon water every morning," that triggers those attention-grabbing brain signals.
The N2B and P3A, high attention capture.
And a cliffhanger like "you won't believe what happened next." That hits the dopamine pathway, creates that strong anticipation.
Exactly. Hits the VTA and ACT pathway, drives that wanting. It's incredibly precise in how it targets different aspects of our brain function, almost like a neuromarketing toolkit.
This deep dive, though, it isn't just about our personal reaction to a single headline. The sheer pervasiveness of clickbait, it goes much further. It's actually degrading our whole information environment.
That's a huge part of the problem.
It chips away at how we learn, how we trust. So what does this all mean for us collectively? What are the bigger consequences?
Well, one of the most significant long-term effects is the systematic erosion of public trust in media. In all media, really.
How does that happen, step by step?
Every single time you click a sensational headline and find the content is misleading or exaggerated or just doesn't deliver, a little bit of trust gets chipped away. This activates something called the Persuasion knowledge model. Basically, when you recognize you're being manipulated, you start getting skeptical, not just of the message, but of the source.
So it's not just, oh, that was a bad article. It becomes, I don't trust that website.
Exactly. That recognition leads to what researchers call source derogation. You start seeing the publisher as less credible, less competent, less trustworthy overall.
And that adds up over time.
Massively. Repeated exposure leads to this generalized skepticism that unfortunately spills over onto legitimate journalism, too. It creates this pervasive trust deficit online, making it harder and harder for everyone to tell reliable information from noise. You see this reflected in surveys. Public confidence in news media keeps declining. It's a direct consequence. And beyond trust, the basic mechanics of clickbait prioritizing emotion, clicks, shares over accuracy, and nuance make it a perfect vehicle for spreading misinformation and disinformation.
How so? What's the connection there?
Well, think about the attention economy, especially pay-per-click ads. It directly incentivizes creating huge volumes of low-quality content. These content farms, they rely almost entirely on clickbait to drive traffic and make money. Journalistic integrity, factual accuracy, often that's just not part of the equation.
And this clearly feeds into the polarization we see everywhere now, right?
Right.
It feels like it pours fuel on the fire.
Absolutely. By exploiting biases like confirmation bias and negativity bias, these headlines can easily inflame partisan tensions, deepen social divides, emotionally charged content that confirms what an in-group already believes, that's far more likely to get shared, to go viral within those ideological echo chambers. This reinforces group identity, hardens opposition to other views, and just distorts public conversation. You get emotional outrage instead of nuanced debate. It's deeply damaging for, a functioning democracy. And this raises another really important point. The harm actually extends to our fundamental cognitive processes, how we learn, how we remember.
You mean clickbait actually makes it harder to learn?
Research shows that, yes. Headlines that are incongruous, that don't match their article content, they have a direct negative impact on media learning outcomes.
What's fascinating here is the studies show that even if participants read the full article that corrects the misleading headline, they often still show lower recognition and comprehension of the actual facts.
Exactly. It suggests that initial misleading frame from the headline is incredibly powerful. It's cognitively sticky. It makes it really hard for our brains to update or overwrite that first piece of misinformation. Researchers call it the continued influence effect.
So even if you get the correction, the bad info lingers. That's deeply unsettling.
It really is. This phenomenon points towards what some call cognitive debt. Our brains organize knowledge into these mental frameworks or schemas to make sense of the world efficiently.
Like mental filing cabinets.
Sort of. A clickbait headline provides this powerful, emotional, easily processed piece of info that acts as an initial anchor for a topic. It gets slotted into a schema or maybe starts a new one.
And correcting it is hard.
Very. The finding that reading the full article often isn't enough shows this. Correcting that flaw isn't just deleting a fact. It means actively restructuring that whole network of associated beliefs in your schema. That takes significant cognitive effort.
So we're constantly building up this debt.
In a clickbait-saturated world, yes, we're constantly accruing this cognitive debt. Each misleading headline plants a flawed data point. It pollutes our foundational knowledge, making us more vulnerable to future manipulation, more prone to flawed reasoning. It's like building your understanding on shaky ground.
Okay, given this really sophisticated manipulation and these widespread consequences, how do we actually fight back? Clearly, just saying I won't click isn't enough.
No, willpower alone is rarely sufficient against such targeted techniques.
So our sources propose this robust, multi-layered defense strategy, and it's all unified by one key principle: introducing cognitive friction.
That's the core idea. Clickbait is designed to be frictionless, to trigger that fast, automatic, emotional, System 1 thinking for an impulsive click.
Get you before you think.
Exactly. So countermeasures have to deliberately interrupt that smooth, automatic process. They need to force a shift to the slower, more deliberative, analytical System 2 cognition. It's fundamentally a battle between these two cognitive systems for your attention.
Okay, so layer one is individual defense, using metacognition, thinking about your own thinking, like becoming a detective of your own mind.
Precisely. And the most fundamental step is just creating a deliberate pause, a beat between seeing the headline and clicking.
Just stop for a second.
Yeah. Ask yourself, what's the source? Credible or known for sensationalism? Does this headline use those common clickbait formulas we talked about? Is it promising something just too good or too shocking to likely be true?
And managing the emotional reaction.
Crucial. Practice emotional self-regulation. Recognize when your emotions are being targeted. If a headline makes you feel intense anger, fear, outrage, that's a red flag. Acknowledge the feeling, but don't act on it immediately. Ask, is this designed to make me feel this way? That creates distance.
What else can individuals do?
Source verification and lateral reading. This is key. Don't just evaluate a claim based on that one article. Open new tabs. Investigate the source itself. Search for other reliable outlets covering the same topic before you accept the information.
Read around the topic, basically.
Exactly. And finally, pattern recognition. With practice, you get good at spotting the patterns. This is why 10 shocking facts you won't believe. Recognizing them transforms the headline. It's not a compelling mystery anymore. It's a transparent tactic you can just dismiss.
Okay, individual strategies are vital, but this is a systemic issue too, right? So we need bigger interventions like better education.
Absolutely. We need systemic approaches, especially robust educational programs going beyond just basic digital literacy and knowing how to use the tech.
What does that look like?
We need critical media literacy. That means training people to critically evaluate the information technology delivers, equipping students and adults too to deconstruct media, asking, who made this? Why? What are the economic incentives? What biases might be at play?
And practical skills.
Yes, practical skills like fact-checking, using good databases, doing reverse image searches to check photos, identifying logical fallacies common in misleading content.
And what makes these programs actually work? Because we hear about media literacy, but does it stick?
Well, research is pretty clear. Short, one-off lectures, largely ineffective. Media literacy needs to be integrated deeply, consistently, across the whole curriculum, from primary school right through higher ed. And it needs sustained, interactive, inquiry-based learning. It has to become second nature, like reading itself.
Okay, individual efforts, education. What about technology itself? Can tech help shield us, create that friction externally?
Yes, definitely. We can use tech to disarm manipulative tactics before they even properly reach our brains.
Like what kind of tools?
Well, first, ad and tracker blockers, things like ghostery. They block the underlying ad infrastructure that financially fuels clickbait. They disrupt the pay-per-click model, cut off the money supply, basically.
Okay, hit them in a wallet. What else?
Then you have title and thumbnail modifiers. Browser extensions like Clickbait Remover for YouTube or Dero. These automatically swap out those sensational custom thumbnails for just a neutral video frame. And they reformat crazy all-LKPS or vague titles into standard text.
So it takes away the visual and textual bait.
Exactly. It's a direct application of cognitive friction. It removes the engineered emotional and curiosity triggers that appeal to your fast System 1 thinking. It forces you to evaluate the content based on more substantive cues, which is a System 2 task.
Interesting. Any other tech solutions?
Yeah, there are also community-powered blockers and AI summarizers. Tools like Clickbait Blocker let users flag clickbaity content, which then gets hidden or marked for others. And even more innovative are AI summarization tools. They analyze the article behind the link and give you a concise summary right there without you needing to click.
So it satisfies the curiosity gap directly.
Precisely. It satisfies the need to know while completely bypassing the click and neutralizing the tactic.
Okay, so wrapping this up, what does this all mean for you listening right now? Clickbait isn't just some trivial digital annoyance. It's a really sophisticated form of manipulation. It preys on our natural curiosity, our emotions, our cognitive biases, even the reward circuitry in our brains. It's a constant battle for our attention.
Indeed. And the consequences, as we've seen, are pretty severe. It erodes trust in media, fuels misinformation and polarization, and can even impair our basic ability to learn and remember accurately.
But the good news is, understanding how it works is empowering.
It really is. Whether it's through that individual metacognition, that pause and reflect, managing emotions, advocating for critical media literacy in schools, or using some of these technological shields, we can introduce that crucial cognitive friction. We can build resilience.
This isn't just academic theory. It feels like a critical survival skill for the 21st century. Fostering cognitive autonomy, being in control of your own attention in this economy where our minds are constantly being targeted.
Yeah.
That's paramount.
It's about being truly informed, not just constantly stimulated or engaged.
So maybe the final thought for you today, as you navigate your feeds later, just take a moment. Notice which headlines genuinely seem to inform and which ones feel engineered purely to make you want to know, regardless of the actual value behind the click.
Yeah. What does that distinction actually reveal about the power dynamics playing out for your attention online? And ultimately, who really benefits when you click? It's definitely a habit worth cultivating, that moment of reflection.
Concierge Care, providing world-class, personalized care for patients and members. Taking a proactive approach by offering its free digital health clinic for anyone in need of these services. Reach out to us via our website, www.health.conciergecare.net, or give us a phone call at 786-809-2345.